What's up, Clashers? Christmas is just around the corner and I thought I would do a Christmas special giving you three-star attack strategies in one video. Two of them are really powerful and very popular among top players, and a bonus strategy used on one of the most popular bases out there today. The three different army compositions we are going to use for this are: number one, the BarBomberCart. 3 camps of barbarians, 1 camp of bombers, and 1 camp of cannon carts. A powerful army that packs a real punch from the cannon carts. And number 2, the BomBarch. 3 camps of barbarians, 1 camp of bombers, and 1 camp of archers. A more sneaky but elegant army that uses patience and precision. And finally, the bonus strategy that uses Barch to defeat a very popular base that is 4 camps of barbarians and 1 camp of archers. Like I said in the previous video, all the replays I'm showing will be on commonly used bases, so this tutorial will show you which strategies I prefer on each of these bases. So without further ado, let's dive right into the first strategy, which uses the BarBomberCart composition. In all of these strategies, the barbarians are the tanks and the distraction. They have the most important job, and that's to keep all the powerful defenses focused on them instead of your other troops or the battle machine. So you should deploy the barbarians in a way that always keeps them in the front line and distracting key defenses such as the giant cannon. The first base we're going to look at is a very popular base. I'm sure most of you have seen it. I like to begin the attack from kind of a risky side because it's far away from the builder hall, but this entry point will present an easy way to take down the first crusher with the cannon carts, and then a wave of barbarians will do a brilliant job in distracting the giant cannon. This also gives us the opportunity to separate the giant cannon distraction wave from the battle machine so that he can sneak in from the side and help take down the roaster and the builder hall. Now, always before you deploy anything whatsoever, you send out barbarians to check for traps wherever you intend to deploy other troops such as bombers or cannon carts, because you don't want any of them dying early on, which would bring your attack to a sudden halt. When the first crusher goes down, you'll see I am now deploying the barbarian distraction wave from the north that will keep the giant cannon fixed on them instead of killing my battle machine. Don't get too excited with the barbarians, keep the deployment steady and even so you don't deplete them too early, that's very important. And with the help of your cannon carts, if they are still alive, your army will make quick work of this base and you got yourself a high percent 2-star, if not a 3-star. When planning these attacks, it's always good to try to imagine the separation of your army. Ask yourself, where will my battle machine enter and how will I use my barbarians to distract the giant cannon? Also, if possible, you want your battle machine to be the one destroying the roaster, or at least distract it, because your barbarians will melt away quickly if they go against the roaster without assistance from either your battle machine or your cannon carts. Next attack is also on a very commonly used base. Here I will enter from the bottom right, at which point the left side of my army will distract the giant cannon, while the right side will include the battle machine and the cannon carts that will take care of the first crusher and the roaster. One important step in these attacks is to make sure the walls are destroyed so that you can aim your army correctly. This means you need to keep your bombers alive until the wall is destroyed to a level of your satisfaction. So in the first few seconds, be generous with your barbarians and make sure the defenses don't target your bombers. And then when the wall is about to be destroyed, deploy a few more barbarians and quickly swap to deploy your cannon carts and battle machine and then back to barbarians again. If you feel this step is a bit too hectic, then take them in turns with a few barbarians in between, because if your entire front line of barbarians is down for just a few seconds, it could be devastating to your other troops. This step requires a bit of practice, but you will quickly learn how to do it. Notice I deployed the rest of my barbarians at the giant cannon to keep it occupied and finally destroy it and not let it target my battle machine. I actually meant for the cannon carts to take care of that roaster previously, but they got distracted by some guard post troops and one of the carts died, so now I had to overwhelm the roaster with barbarians to make sure it went down quickly. It is otherwise very dangerous going against a giant cannon and roaster that are very close together with only barbarians. If you for some reason have to do this, then try to spread them apart a little. Don't deploy them in the same spot. Otherwise, the splash damage of these two defenses will level your barbarians in no time. This is actually a general rule of thumb when it comes to barbarian deployment. You should always try to avoid deploying multiple barbarians from the exact same spot. This way they are less vulnerable to splash damage and traps. At the end of this video, I will add more replays for all the strategies, but for now let's move on to the second attack strategy that uses the BomBarch army composition. This army is not as hectic and it is executed in 2 stages, with a pause in the middle to assess the situation and plan the second stage. This strategy is generally used on bases where you can easily reach at least half of the 4 strongest defenses: the giant cannon, the roaster, and the 2 crushers. The first stage will look a lot like the beginning of the previous strategy, and it is intended to expose the strong defenses to a sneaky archer attack. And when exposing, we don't necessarily have to clear everything in front of them, but preferably as much as possible. In the first attack here, I noticed that the 2 crushers were kind of exposed, and I decided I could reach them with the first stage of a BomBarch attack. In the first stage, you want to breach the wall and clear up as much as possible using the 4 bombers and no more than half of your barbarian army. The less you use, the better. Sometimes it's worth it to cross this line, but remember, the second stage will be that much easier the more barbarians you still have in your army. During this first stage, you might have to tackle the guard post troops, and they can be tricky to deal with. On one hand, you don't want them to approach your bombers, but on the other hand, you don't want to send too many barbarians too quickly, because the guard post archers might lure your barbarians too far inside the base, and then they will die quickly. The first stage is the hard part and requires some practice, and you have to stay calm and always keep an eye on your barbarian count. Don't use too many. In the second stage, we deploy our archers in such a way that they will help destroy 2 of the 4 strongest defenses, in this case the 2 crushers. We give them a brief moment to use up as much of their invisibility as we can before we send out barbarians to keep defenses distracted and hopefully help the archers survive for even longer. Other than that, the same rules now apply for the barbarians and the battle machine. We try to deploy barbarians so that we keep the giant cannon distracted, while we aim the battle machine for the roaster. Once the crushers are down, speed up the barbarian deployment to help the battle machine stay alive for as long as possible and hopefully help to overwhelm the remaining defenses and get that 3rd star, but most importantly to secure the 2nd star and high percentage. In this particular attack, I separated my archers into 2 groups because the crushers were quite far apart, and then I tried to aim my barbarians in the middle. But in most of these attacks, I do it the other way around: archers in the middle and barbarians on the sides. And this is something you have to figure out in the pause. Remember to assess the situation and choose the easiest way for your archers to help destroy the strong defenses while you plan ahead where to send your distracting barbarians. On this base, I decided to go for the crusher with the giant cannon and the roaster behind it. And the plan is then to send my battle machine for the roaster, while a barbarian wave from the north will work to distract the giant cannon. For that reason, it was particularly important to focus on the top 2 bombers and make sure they actually break the top corner of the inner wall. Things would have been slightly easier if I actually managed to destroy the other inner wall corner too, but unfortunately that bomber took 2 cannonballs to his face and dropped dead. Now, for the second stage, I deployed my archers in the middle to go for that crusher, but still somewhat spread apart, which is always good because it prevents the giant cannon from sending them all to heaven with a single ball. Also noticed I sent 1 barbarian for the gold mine at the bottom because I noticed my battle machine was heading in the wrong way. Always pay attention to where your battle machine is headed when you deploy him. If you accidentally aim him outside of the base, quickly use barbarians to destroy those first buildings to adjust his course, otherwise the roaster might prevent your army from reaching the builder hall. And again, when the crusher is down and the roaster is distracted by the battle machine, speed up the barbarian deployment to help overwhelm the remaining defenses to ensure a good final score. You can also try to aim the last of the barbarians directly at remaining point defenses if possible, which will help you get that 3rd star. I have more replays for this strategy, which I will show in just a moment, but now let's have a look at the bonus strategy, which is only meant for a particular base that is still widely used by many players. It's a strategy that uses the same idea as the BomBarch, but without the bombers. Instead, we have 4 camps of barbarians and 1 camp of archers. In this strategy, we use the barbarians to breach the wall in 3 specific places, and then keep deploying barbarians to make sure the entire outer section is clear from buildings. And you expose the 2 crushers. Of course, this should be done with as few barbarians as possible, and you will have to deal with the guard post troops as well. This will take some practice, as the guard post troops need to be lured out into this section and then killed. The way to do this is to be patient in the beginning and sort of tease them with the barbarians at first, and then once they all step out, deploy more barbarians to kill them and destroy all the buildings. Try to use all 3 entry points and keep an eye on remaining buildings to deploy barbarians accordingly. Once this is done, you send out your archers in 2 separate groups towards the crushers. Again, we give them a brief moment to use up as much of their invisibility as possible, but then before it runs out, send the battle machine and the barbarians to keep defenses distracted, and hopefully the archers will survive for much longer. The battle machine will obviously be deployed towards the side with the roaster, and the barbarians, even though it's good to deploy them everywhere to help with tanking, we focus some of them to distract and destroy the giant cannon before it targets the battle machine. Of course, you can also use the other 2 strategies to defeat this base, but I've found that this strategy has been the easiest option for a 3-star. I will now queue up some more replays for all 3 strategies to show you how I plan the attacks in different scenarios and on other popular bases. The same idea and strategy is used for all these attacks, but tailored for each specific base layout. I hope with all these replays I am covering as many popular bases as possible and how to defeat them. An important note here is that these strategies are somewhat more advanced than my previous tutorials, but they are intended to help you push to the very top of the leaderboard if you want to. Of course, if that is your goal, then you will also need a strong and well upgraded defense. Hopefully I have included all the important aspects of these strategies, but as always I will be active in the comment section and help you out with any further questions about these attacks. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful. I will put on some music now, and until next time, have a Merry Christmas and thank you for watching.